right, we'll call tonight's meeting to order. Mrs. Ford, please feel free to start with roll call.
Chairwoman Robinson.
Here.
Mrs. Black.
Here.
Mr. Connor. Mr. Groan. Mrs. Jones.
Here.
Mr. King.
Here.
Mr. Perez.
Here.
Mrs. Faye Robinson.
Here.
Mr. Smith. Mrs. Thurman.
Here.
Dr. Wingate.
Here.
Superintendent Dr. Robertson.
Here.
Mrs. Davis.
All right. We'll have the approval of the agenda. We have 3 amendments to tonight's agenda. The first is item F, 1F. There is a change in language to Board Policy 2.700 on line 16.
That's the wrong policy number.
I'm sorry, you're right. Item E, Board Policy 2.806. There is a change in the language, and I put it up. Here it is. Line 16, 25,000 or should have been omitted, and it should have read as on purchases of less than $50,000. Next amendment is under Board Matters, item B, the differentiated compensation request, and item C, the superintendent's annual evaluation. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second.
I'm sorry.
It was
Mr.
Mr.
Perez
Perez.
and Mrs. Thurman. Mrs. Black.
Yes.
Mrs. Jones.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Mr. Perez.
Yes.
Mrs. Faye Robinson.
Yes.
Mrs. Thurman.
Yes.
Dr. Wingate.
Yes.
Chairwoman Robinson.
Yes. Great.
We have a little malfunction here with the screens. We have a video. Plug what in?
Ours are all off.
I just pulled it up.
Well, I'll go ahead and
Like
call
this.
up Mrs. Lori Collier, principal of Calvin Donaldson Elementary, is leading us in the pledge to the flag in our meditation tonight.
I think I heard the kids in the background.
Yeah.
Not me, the kids are. Hopefully they can. And this is also my assistant principal, Mandy Robertson, with me. And we appreciate the honor to get to come before you guys tonight. We have the wonderful job of leading one of the best kept secrets in Hamilton County. And so at Calvin Donaldson, we have a whole tribe of champions that are working to ensure that all of our kids are showing growth in reading, writing, and thinking. And through our academic press and personalization goals, our students are learning to persevere through some challenges and learning to become their best selves. So the pledge tonight will be presented by a few of our Tiger Cubs. Many thanks to Tyriana and Cyriana Appleberry and William and Anika Boyd.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, Sherry, our things aren't on.
Yours are not on? Okay. You may not.
So we have another video to share. These are some of our 5th grade students. They have been studying Jackie Robinson in their EL Module 3, Athlete Leaders of Social Change. By studying his life, they've learned what it takes to break barriers. Our students have selected an excerpt from his essay, This I Believe, Free Hearts and Minds at Work, to share with you tonight. We hope you enjoy.
I am Reggie.
I am Jacob.
I am Ladarius.
And I am Danae.
And we are students at Calvin Donaldson Elementary. In 1952, barrier-breaking Jackie Robinson wrote these words in his essay, 3 minds and hearts at work.
And what is it that I've always believed? First, that imperfections are human.
But that would every human being were given room to breathe and time to think, those
Imperfections would disappear no matter.
I am Reggie,
I am Jacob.
I am Ladarius,
And I am Danae.
and we are students at Calvin Johnson Elementary. In 1952, Beverly Jackie Robinson wrote these words in his essay, 3 Miles and Hearts at Work.
And what is it that I've always believed? First, that imperfections are human.
But that would every human being were given room to breathe and time to think, those
Imperfections would disappear no matter how slowly.
I do not believe that we have found or even approached perfection. That is not necessarily in the scheme of human events.
handicaps, stumbling blocks, and prejudices. All of these are imperfect, yet they have to be reckoned with because they are in the scheme of human events.
In 2023,
We-
the students of Calvin Donaldson, believe in helping each other.
We believe in stopping violence. We believe in living in harmony.
And we believe in valuing people's imperfections and their differences.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful. Okay, next
I
we'll
am
have our
Reggie.
exemplars of
I am
excellence.
Jacob.
All right, we are honoring tonight the Tyner High Academy State Champion football team. Director Tim James.
Mr. Chairman, distinguished board members, tonight is a great night. I'm really excited to introduce some fine young men from School Board District 5. I got it right this time. Missionary Ridge Learning District. State champions in football for this year. Most of these guys were probably anywhere from 3 to 5 years old the last time a public school won a state championship in football. So it's quite an accomplishment. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the team. They had they had one loss on the entire year and won the state championship in a pretty impressive fashion. They have 9 college signees in this group. And if that wasn't enough, they had a Mr. Tennessee football, Tennessee Titans, and Mr. Josh Jackson. So tonight in our presence is a principal from the Tyner Academy, Mrs. Tiffany Urban, or Dr. Tiffany Urban, excuse me, and their athletic director, Mr. Ron Davis. So without further ado, guys, here, come on up, stand up. State championship, Tyner Academy.
Dr. Irvin and Mr. Davis, don't try to sneak out.
Congratulations. Hard work, Cornell. Congratulations. A lot of hard work, I'm sure. Congratulations, guys. Congratulations. Good job. Tell Rachel going, or Turner, I said. Good job, guys. A lot of hard work, I'm sure. Congratulations. Awesome. Congratulations. Receiver? All right. Congratulations. Now you expect it every
Are you a senior or you did get it?
Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah,
Congratulations. Keep up the good work.
Well, guys, you need to tighten up.
Congratulations. Keep it up. Repeat next year. Congratulations. 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 Repeat next year.
You just already a state
Congratulations. A lot of hard work out there. Congratulations. Congratulations. Hopefully repeat again next year.
Gentlemen, we're extremely proud of you.
Congratulations, Tyner Rams. Miss Black had a question. Raise your hand if you're a signee. I know Josh, if you're a signee, just kind of yell out where you're going to school.
Where are you going to school?
All right. Baker. Bethel University, Southeast where? Okay.
And then where are the other schools?
Carson Newman. Okay, 2 Carson Newmans. Okay.
Awesome. Congrats, guys.
Take care. Thanks for coming. Thank you. Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Hey, Sherry, this seat needs to go back.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if that was somebody was sitting, oh, they were sitting there, okay.
Move back in the first row.
Congratulations. We are so proud. Okay, we'll move into the board member disclaimer statement. We'll start with Mrs. Thurman.
Okay, sorry. I was just telling them my brother went to Tyner and played football and went to the state tournament that year. They didn't win, but yeah. So, okay. I declare that I have a relative who works for the school system and the board's vote on the budget and policies may have an effect on my relative's employment. Even so, I hereby certify that I will cast my vote in the best interest of the school system.
I declare that I have a relative who works for the school system and the board's vote may have an effect on my relative's employment. Even so, I hereby certify that I will cast my vote in the best interest of the school system.
I declare that I have a relative who works for the school system and that the board's vote on budget policies, et cetera, may have an effect on my relative's employment. Even so, I hereby certify that I will cast my vote in the best interest of the school system.
I declare that I have relatives who work for the school system and that the board's vote on pretty much everything may have an effect on my relative's employment. Even so, I hereby certify that I will cast my vote in the best interest of the school system.
I declare that I have a relative who works for the school system and that the board's vote on budget, policies, etc. may have an effect on my relative's employment. Even so, I hereby certify that I will cast my vote in the best interest of the school system.
I declare that I have a relative who works for the school system and that the board's vote may have an effect on my relative's employment. Even so, I hereby certify that I will cast my vote in the best interest of the school system.
I declare that I have a relative who works for the school system and that the board's vote on budget policies, et cetera, may have an effect on my relative's employment. Even so, I hereby certify that I will cast my vote in the best interest of the school system.
Thank you. All right, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Any items to pull?
Yes, I'd just like to pull one, please. F1A, Board Policy 2.300.
All right. We'll go ahead and call for the vote.
Okay, Mrs. Black,
Yes.
Mrs. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Perez,
Yes.
Mrs. Faye Robinson,
Yes.
Mrs. Thurman,
Yes.
Dr. Wingate,
Yes.
Chairwoman Robinson.
Yes. Okay, Mrs. Thurman, if you want to.
Yes, this policy, I pulled it just so I could vote against it, not that I'm against the policy. I just don't like the idea that seem to be just going through and just to change words for the sake of changing words. I don't like that practice because in a few years there may be other words that we just have to go through and change words. But I say it really doesn't change the policy, it really doesn't enhance the policy. It just is changing a word for the sake of changing word.
Okay,
So I just don't want to vote for it.
thank you. Do I have a motion to put it back? Yeah, right. Yep. Do I have a motion to put it back on the agenda or to approve it?
So moved.
Motion to approve.
Oh,
Okay.
Second.
All right, I have a motion from Mr. Keen and a second from Mr. Perez.
Mrs. Black,
Yes.
Mrs. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Perez,
Yes.
Mrs. Faye Robinson,
Yes.
Mrs. Thurman,
No.
Dr. Wingate,
Yes.
Chairwoman Robinson.
Yes. Great. Moving into administrative matters, do I have a motion to approve the proposed high school and middle school zones for Brainerd High and Eastridge High, Brainerd High and Hickson High, Delwood Middle and Eastridge Middle?
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion from Mrs. John and a second from Mrs. Black.
Mrs. Black,
Yes.
Mrs. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Perez,
Yes.
Mrs. Faye Robinson,
Yes.
Mrs. Thurman,
Yes, with the understanding that everyone knows about the grandfathering clause, that we're going to be sure that parents and students are aware of that. Yes.
Dr. Wingate,
Yes.
Chairwoman Robinson.
Yes. Do I have a motion to approve the request for a new position, JROTC additional instructor at East Hamilton High?
Move to approve.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, motion from Mr. King, second from Mrs. Thurman.
Can I, are they getting more students there to take ROTC? Is that what it is?
Yes, ma'am. If you
Okay.
remember, this was a new program
Right.
at East Hamilton, and they have, they're doing a great job and just
So
have
there's a lot more.
enough kids that qualifies
Okay.
for a third.
Just wanted everybody to understand what was going on. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Black,
Yes.
Mrs. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Perez,
Yes.
Mrs. Faye Robinson,
Yes.
Mrs. Thurman,
Yes.
Dr. Wingate,
Yes.
Chairwoman Robinson.
Yes. Okay. Item C, Board Policy First Reading, Board Policy 4.2121. We do not need to vote on this, but if there's any comments or questions, we can certainly have a discussion.
So, Ms. Moody, just kind of give us a brief thing, what's
I believe it's actually
different
Mrs.
from what
Copel.
we've had in other charter schools?
Sure. I was looking for Kelly, to be quite honest, in our
Fair.
charter school. I do know, at least that this has to do with, I believe we have a state, you know about this, Neely? We have a state requirement to have a policy in about charters as we do our pieces. So I think she pulled from other charter policies, worked with Scott on this as well to draft a policy that we can put into our full list of policies.
Great. Okay. All right. Okay, we don't need a vote on that, so we'll move into board matters. Do I have a motion to approve the third grade joint resolution written by Ben Connor and Gary Keene?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Mr. Keene and a second from Mr. Perez.
Mrs. Black,
Yes.
Mrs.
Oh.
Jones, I'm sorry.
Oh, we don't get the.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We
Ms.
don't get
Thurman?
discussion.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm
Go
sorry, I
ahead.
put my light on.
Oh.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that everyone understands, the law is written now, you don't automatically fail if you fail the test. You can pass if you take the tutoring and take summer school. Is that correct? The way that I'm reading it? I mean, it's not like it's a drop dead if you pass. Even if you fail that test, you can take the extra tutoring and the summer school and,
Depending on the level. If
Yeah.
you're approaching, it's either or. If you're below, it's both.
okay, I just want to be sure that people understand that. It's not just a drop dead. If they fail the test, they can still move on if they take the offered classes and different things. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Keene?
All right, so, again, a little more clarity than that. So they fail the test, they take summer school, they take the large amount of tutoring. They also have to retake the TCAP test during the summer. That's not correct?
No, it's to show growth through another assessment. Now, there is an option of they can retake prior to that.
Okay,
full
that's,
TCAP,
I'm
but
gonna
that's
say,
not a requirement.
Senator Watson said they had a second chance to take it.
They do prior.
And then
to
if
going
not,
to
they
summer
can
school.
move into fourth grade, but if they fail the fourth grade TCAP, then they are retained.
So they have an option to retake TCAP prior to doing tutoring or summer school. They go to summer school, they have to take a post-assessment to show adequate growth is the
Yeah.
language, I believe.
Adequate growth,
Correct,
that's right.
Amy?
So they can retake the test. Right now, TDOE's test window is from May 30th to June 9th. Our summer programming starts June 5th. So they would retake the test actually prior to coming to summer programming. If you retake the test, you automatically go into fourth grade. If you decide to do summer programming, you do not retake TCAP until, of course, fourth grade, which is a different test.
Okay. And answer me this, so I have a child that's in the third grade and they're averaging a C going into that test and they fail that test. They still are required to do the intensive tutoring and they're still responsible for doing summer school.
So it depends on what they score on the test. If a student is approaching, they have the option of attending summer school or having tutoring the next year. If the student's approaching and they do the 4 weeks of summer programming, they do not have tutoring next year. There's no difference.
No.
They go on to fourth grade. If the student is below, they would have to have tutoring the following year and attend summer programming.
Regardless of their
Of their
average going
grades,
into
correct.
their test.
I will say, since we have last discussed the third grader retention law with you guys, there was a board policy, Tennessee State Board policy, that now allows parents to appeal to the state if the student has a score on the screener of 40% or above. So actually, right now, it's using two different assessments for the retention.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any more discussion? Okay, call for the vote.
Mrs. Black,
Yes.
Mrs. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. King,
Yes?
Mr. Perez,
Yes?
Mrs. Faye Robinson,
No.
Mrs. Thurman,
No.
Dr. Wingate,
No.
Chairwoman Robinson.
Yes.
Fails.
The resolution fails. Thank you. Okay, do I have a motion to approve the differentiated compensation request?
Yes. So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Mr. Perez and a second from Mr. Keen.
Mrs. Black,
Yes.
Mrs. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. King,
Yes?
Mr. Perez,
Yes.
Mrs. Faye Robinson,
Yes.
Mrs. Thurman,
Yes.
Dr. Wingate,
Yes.
Chairwoman Robinson.
Yes. Okay. The next item is the superintendent's annual evaluation. There is no vote on this item, and Mr. Bennett will get you the formal evaluation tool to review. And of course, now, Mr. Bennett, should we expect like for comment period from board members? Like if board members have comments or questions, should they just direct them to you?
Absolutely.
Okay.
If they have any questions or comments, just direct them to me. Because it largely tracks the strategic plan, I don't think that there are gonna be a lot of questions about what we're measuring. You may have some questions about why this metric as opposed to that metric. And quite frankly, the chair and I spent a lot of time at the convention trying to work through that. So I fully expect that you may have some questions. Give me a holler and I'll do my best to walk through.
Great, thank you. All right, that's the end of our agenda. Well, I'm sorry. There is legal services report for you to review, and then events and announcements. School is closed this coming Monday for President's Day. On Tuesday, February 21st, Ben Connor will host a legislative update community meeting here in the boardroom, I believe, at 5:30 p.m. And he did want me to formally ask everyone on the board to attend if they are available. I think his plan is to give an update on the legislative work that he's learning about in his TSBA liaison role. And then Friday, March 10th is the end of the third quarter. Monday, March 13th, no students in school, Teacher Professional Development Day. Thursday, March 16th is our next board meeting, and we will have our executive session at 4 p.m. here in the boardroom. So please put that on your calendars. And with that, our meeting is adjourned.
Where Justin go? Do we have graduation calendar?